Boy. Him's ending is a doozy. The movie itself is divided up by days that Cameron Cade spends training with the current GOAT him, the Saviors, Isaiah White, with each day bringing Cameron Cade closer to the possibility of becoming a professional football player for the league and representing a specific lesson Cameron learns. At this time, Cameron Cade is still recovering from a brain injury he was left with after a mysterious attack, but sees this pseudo-training camp with Isaiah White, which quickly shifts from normal to torturous, as his only way to advance in the sport. As we enter the ending sequence of Hayam, we also enter into the last day of the movie, day 6, or Sacrifice. Cameron is injected with the blood of Hayam. The ending of Hayam, I would say, begins with Cameron Cade waking up from unconsciousness, a result of the intense events of the movie's Day 5 vision. The evening before, Cameron attended an arcane kind of welcome party with all the bigwigs of the football team, where his health specialist was ritually murdered, potentially as punishment for warning Cameron to run away. After the drink and demons of the party, Cameron finds himself on ice, a special bag of Isaiah White's blood, one that we were introduced to earlier in the movie, getting injected into his veins. Cameron tears the blood out of him, and it seems like he can barely move, but his medical trainer left him one more gift, a syringe that says "run" on it. After crawling over to it, Cameron injects the vial into him, and seemingly recovers from his numbness, but he doesn't run. Cameron confronts Isaiah and learns the meaning of him. Ironically, snagging one of Isaiah's football trophies to destroy him, Cameron confronts Isaiah about the madness of the last days. But finally, at the end of him, Isaiah paints us a picture of what has been happening, basically through a series of ostensibly demonic rituals or some kind of dealing with strange gods. Powerful blood has been passed down from great athlete to athlete throughout the ages of the Saviors team history. This blood makes whichever player possesses it the golden boy of football for a period. This elaborate plan, it seems, was created and carried out by the owners and others in charge of the team. Once injected into a player, this blood allows them to become the GOAT, or him. But it turns out there can only be one 8 a.m. at a time, and now that Cameron also has the 8 a.m. blood in his veins, he and Isaiah can't both go on. Only one of them can continue to play football. The other one must die. But it turns out there can be more than one meaning to the greatest of all time. What's the opposite of a savior? Cameron asks Isaiah before killing him. A nice guy. Cameron rejects the Savior's contract and kills everyone at the end of 8 a.m. After Cameron kills Isaiah, technically he's become 8 a.m. But it seems like, as with every good demonic ritual, a contract needs to be made. As the ending of the 8 a.m. movie comes to its last act, Cameron emerges into the light and finds himself in a twisted ritualistic ceremony yet again. Faceless cheerleaders and masked band members play him down toward the owners of the team and his agent, all of whom hungrily await his arrival. Cameron learns that this cadre of people has been grooming him to become 8 a.m. since his youth. It's not outright stated, but the movie implies that the team even killed his father so Cameron would continue to play football. However, it's also implied that it was his father who entered into a demonic bargain so his son could one day become a football star and quarterback. So maybe he had it coming, and Cameron's agent, the Savior's owner, and the rest absolutely were responsible for Cameron Cade's head injury, which allowed them to isolate him for this final psychopathic training camp. Ultimately, though, Cameron sees them for what they are and the farce they've turned his beloved game into. At the end of Hammer, he refuses to sign their contract. Instead, he proceeds to brutally murder every single person that has blood on their hands, including Isaiah White's terrifying influencer wife, Elsie, the owner of the Savior's team, and all the other smug people at the table. It's a symphony of blood and guts as Cameron turns the brutal precision and strength that football has imbued him with into exactly what the owners have been trying to get him to become, a primal force. The only person Cameron doesn't literally kill at the end of Hammer is his agent. The gods don't like not receiving their Hammer, but it turns out you can't really leave a ritual half-baked. Whatever demonic forces or football gods the Saviors were messing with don't enjoy seeing their ceremony go unfulfilled, and someone must pay. Unseen powers drag Cameron's agent into the center of the ceremonial field and destroy him. Justin Tipping recently spoke opens in a new tab about the second part of the movie's ending, sharing that after Cameron kills Isaiah, it becomes, how do you beat that? How can we construct this so that it becomes full slasher, full promise of the genre? And indeed, Ham's ending did all of that and more. What does Ham endings mean? But beyond the gore, what does Ham's ending actually mean? Well, Ham's ending has a series of complicated meanings. However, in broad strokes, Ham's ending appears to examine how powerful networks of power are embedded in the sports complexes of America, particularly in football. Young athletes are consumed by their desire to play, to achieve, and to transcend, and they are pulled into a world where they put their minds and bodies through unimaginable stress. Ham's final scene also touches on the veins of violence that run through football, and the inequalities that plague the game, as players, especially those from marginalized communities, twist their bodies up and put themselves in incredible danger while the typically old, white, and rich owners of the teams profit without ever getting their hands dirty. Ham's ending poetically paints a picture of all these themes through Cameron's bloody dance of extrication. Ham's ending reveals what the movie's title means. Ham's ending also finally let us know what the movie's title, Ham, refers to. As Isaiah explains, whoever has the blood of the collective goats is Ham, the blessed player, the player who can do no wrong, the player who transcends. Once you have the blood, you become Ham. Of course, we like to think that Cameron becoming Ham means it can also just refer to being awesome and not giving in to something that feels wrong, however tempting it might be. Were supernatural forces at work in Ham? Yes, magic, demons, and some kind of supernatural forces were absolutely at work in Ham, although it felt as though Cameron's head injury, the drugs he was taking, and the absolute deprivation that he was putting himself through could have been responsible for the visions he was seeing in the movie, and that Isaiah and his wife Elsie could just be psychopaths. The end of Ham makes it pretty clear. It's not just crazy people in a bad trip, but literal demons, gods, or some kind of other force at work in the film. Ham is a supernatural horror, and we love it. What happens to Cameron Cade after the end of the movie? Of course, the ending of Ham might leave you with a few questions about what happens to Cameron Cade at the end of the movie, but only a few of them will have answers. Does Cameron Cade die at the end of Ham? No. Although the final sequence of the movie does take place in a setting that echoes heaven a little bit, Cameron Cade appears to be alive and well as the credits roll. Cameron does not die in Ham. Does Cameron Cade get to play professional football at the end of Ham? The million-dollar question. We'd like to think that despite the head injury, the murderers, and the blood rituals, Cameron Cade does get to play professional football with some less insane team after the end of Ham, but sadly, we just don't know. Does Cameron Cade go to jail at the end of Ham? Again, we'd like to think he doesn't. There were witnesses to his murders, but do any of those people really want to start explaining how they were a part of a demonic cult in the middle of the desert? Hopefully not. The worst part about being part of intense supernatural events is that it's tough to explain afterward. But with any luck, the demons will clean up after themselves, and no one will bother Cameron. What does it mean that Ham's blood is still inside Cameron? Cameron told Isaiah that having the blood of Ham inside of him was cheating, and yet it still seemed like players' bodies wore out even with the blood. And Isaiah must have still lost some games. Did having the Ham blood really do or mean anything? And since Cameron didn't complete his part of the ritual, what repercussions will there be that the blood is still inside of him? Will the football god strike Cameron down or lift him up? We guess we'll have to wait for the sequel for that. Kidding. Some questions are best left unanswered. And that brings us to the end of Ham. The final twist leaves us questioning not only the character's choices, but also the deeper meaning of identity, morality, and sacrifice. Whether you saw the ending as a moment of closure or as an open door for interpretation, one thing's for sure, it sparked a lot of discussion. So what do you think really happened at the end of Ham? Was it redemption, punishment, or something in between? Drop your theories in the comments below. I'd love to hear your take. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe for more Ending Explained videos, and ring the bell so you never miss our next deep dive into the biggest shows and movies. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.